I want to, if we can, have a grown-up conversation about this. There's a couple of things that depress me, actually, because I think she's right when she suggests that, quotes, illegal immigration, end quotes, and I'll explain those quotes to you in a moment, has torn the country apart. You know how many people have become addicted to the outrage economy. You may even have someone in your life. There's an agony aunt in the newspapers today addressing somebody's 73-year-old father who has become addicted to this sort of outrage on these issues that seems to be everywhere at the moment, mostly on social media, but inevitably it has leached into real life as well. And when you read a Labour Home Secretary saying that illegal immigration has torn the country apart, and you realise how lost some of the logic has already become, because what they are describing as illegal immigration is asylum applications, which generally receive, I think the figure is about 90% approval ratings. So you're talking about, quotes, genuine refugees, end quotes, who cannot come via any regular routes, thanks to Tory party policies. And listen, it's 7 minutes after 10, and I am waving a white flag here. What I'm saying is completely true, but I don't think it matters. I don't think it's mattered for some time. I think we may have pinpointed the moment together when we thought it ceased to matter. But when that phrase illegal, which became a noun very quickly, didn't it, rather than an adjective, it became a noun, we started talking about, well, I didn't, but lots of people started talking about illegals. And they conflated asylum seekers with illegal immigrants because technically it became illegal to cross the channel in a small boat and arrive here irregularly. But it also became the only course of action available for people who wanted to come here for a variety of reasons, most of which history teaches us are to do with familial links and language skills. But again, that's another white flag. It's a sad day for facts when a Labour Party, when a Labour government moves onto this territory. So there are two facts for you there. It is semantics to describe these people as illegal immigrants because they quickly become legal in 90% of cases when their applications are processed. And the second bit that is simply not true is that people are drawn here rather than other places where the rates in percentage terms are more or less the same because we are perceived as being a little bit more generous or, what's the phrase that they use, soft touch or something like that. Again, it doesn't stand up to scrutiny. I think you get about £9 a week if you're sleeping in a bunk bed in one of these repurposed hotels. But I suppose that's preferable to sleeping under a bridge or sleeping in the kind of conditions that you might be enduring in Calais. So those two white flags are being raised today. I don't know what the plan was when the Tories criminalised asylum seeking. I really don't know whether this is what was supposed to happen, whether they knew that the electoral writing was already on the wall and therefore they decided to bequeath an extraordinarily toxic legacy to a future Labour government. But I do know this, those two battles have been lost. And if there was any doubt about that, Shabana Mahmood will remove it in the House of Commons later today. Genuine asylum seekers are illegal immigrants. That is Britain. That's Brexit Britain in 2025. And you can't win that argument now. It's over. If not for a generation, then at least for an electoral cycle. Or at least as long as Shabana Mahmood remains Home Secretary and equally Keir Starmer remains Prime Minister. The other lie that's probably worth reminding you of is that these people are staying in 3, 4 and 5-star hotels. I think it's probably fair to say at 10 minutes past 10 on November the 17th, 2025, that anybody's still making that claim in the professional sphere, in the world of people who get paid for their opinions, they know that they are lying, okay? I think it's perfectly possible for your dad or your Auntie Doris to go on Facebook and come away convinced that that's true. They are being lied to. but anybody who is paid for their insights or their input, whether by media organizations or by Elon Musk's commoditization of hatred on social media, the simple fact of the matter is anybody claiming that the people put up in these buildings enjoy the same levels of service and attention and facility and amenities as people paying normal prices to stay in 3, 4 or 5-star hotels, they know that they are lying to you, okay? So, in fact, I may just, bear with me a moment, I'm just going to secure a pen. Because these are things that are important. I'm just sort of making a list, if you like, of the lies. And the first is, of course, the conflation of asylum seeker, genuine asylum seeker, with illegal immigrant, because that's what we've been told for years. Oh, I don't mind the genuine ones. It's the illegal ones I don't like. So the Tories turned the genuine ones into illegal ones. Fact. I don't want to turn into David Brent or anybody like that, but I'm probably going to say fact quite a lot in the course of the next couple of minutes. The second one is that we are somehow more attractive. I mean, in a way, we are more attractive to people who already have family here or who only speak English as a foreign language. They don't have any other languages that they have been taught to speak. It's one of the great legacies of empire, of course, is that English is a sort of lingua franca, if you pardon the pun, around the world. So the idea that we're a soft touch isn't true. And then on a less important note, the idea that they are staying in 3, 4 or 5-star hotels, akin, if not identical, to the ones that we stayed in when we were kids and went on holiday in Exmouth or Morecambe or some other delightful British holiday resort. None of these things are true. But it is true that, quotes, illegal immigration, end quotes, has torn the country apart. Because of that YouGov statistic that I bored you rigid with 2 or 3 weeks ago that shows if you ask people what they care about most, they'll tell you in second place it's immigration, and yet if you ask what affects their life the most, they'll tell you that immigration is in 7th place, and that doesn't even qualify or specify illegal. So the war has been lost. People like me who essentially are motivated by the knowledge that even if you banned immigration entirely, the people who rant about it most, or the people most persuaded that it's ruining their lives, would see precisely zero improvement in their life. And that in many ways is the patriotic position to adopt. People who feel that they've got the rubbish end of the stick in life, being encouraged by people who have got all the gold, encouraged by the people who've got all the gold, all the prizes, all the luxuries, to blame foreigners or to blame immigrants for their own circumstances is as old as the hills. But if you were to abolish, completely ban immigration into this country, life would get worse for everybody. Actually, absolutely everybody. And of course, if you're going to start deporting people who had previously got the right to be here or who expected to have the right to be here, then you are also going to, you're going to make life particularly worse for them. And the idea is that you'll celebrate. The average Brit will celebrate, as some Americans have done, seeing children being snatched off the street or seeing people who you were working alongside or living alongside last week being deported. So, there's room for speculation, there's room for nuance, but there is sadly not room for facts anymore. And those 3 key facts have driven this entire conversation. Your average asylum seeker is simultaneously going to have their application approved and, as a consequence of Tory legislation, an illegal immigrant. The idea that people come here because it is measurably and demonstrably a better, quotes, offer, end quotes, than going elsewhere is not true. I mean, there are places that are more attractive and there are places that are less attractive. But the big drive comes from people who have family or language links to this country. And then the third thing is that they're all staying in the kind of hotel that you and I could barely afford ourselves if we wanted to spend a fortnight in Filey. And that's why the country has been torn apart by illegal immigration, to use Shabana Mahmood's words. The other phrase that's quite interesting, which isn't untrue, you say fighting age men instead of working age men, and you completely change the nature of the debate. But that debate is lost as well. There's no point saying working age men, because that's dog bites man. You say fighting age men, you're trying to create the idea that they all want to fight you, rather than the idea that they all want to work. What do you think is more likely to be true? I'll show you 100 people that have come here via small boats. How many of them do you think want to fight you, and how many do you think want to work? You can have a fight anywhere. They could, if they wanted to fight, they could have stayed in their own country and fought against whatever oppressive, tyrannical regime it is that would have locked them up and tortured them, so that they were never heard of again, in the case, of course, of Syria. But working, oh no, don't say working age. So the question that intrigues me most up first this morning is from the very first line of a piece that Shabana Mahmood has written for The Guardian. And it speaks absolutely to something that I've tried, with some success, to run up the flagpole in recent weeks. And it's this idea that you can... Was it a lady in Telford? I think it was a lady in Telford. I was desperately trying to find the constituency that Labour is appealing to. And it's people who are not sort of nativist snarlers. They don't hate foreigners. They're not racist. They're not xenophobic. And they're not anti-immigration, but they are very exercised by the idea that the system is being abused. It was Tamara, I think. Tamara in Telford, a lifelong Tory. She may even have been a former councillor. And I wanted to find, and we found a few people that age, and we wanted to find the constituency that Labour seems increasingly to be convinced is both real, i.e. it exists, and winnable. So it's not your outrage addict. It's not your Billy Bunch of Numbers with a bulldog avatar and 307 flags on his Twitter profile. It's the person who has been persuaded that the system is being abused. And that's why I find this line from Shabana Mahmood, I don't want to argue with her, because she's speaking from a position I don't inhabit. She's speaking as a woman of colour. I know some of these measures will face opposition, and here is the killer line, the key line, the absolutely crucial line. But a country without secure borders is less safe for those who look like me. So she insists that we will continue to offer sanctuary to those fleeing peril, even as she essentially introduces policies that would have seen us send kinder transport children back to Germany once the Nazis had been overthrown and Germany became, quote, safe again, end quotes. But she is arguing from the perspective that this will make life better, not for the sort of nativist snarlers that some people worry she's appealing to, but, if you like, for ethnic minority people who are here. Well, you see, if I say legally, then I'm including 90% of asylum applications over recent years. So I think the question I'm going to ask you is this. Who do you think she's appealing to? Hand on heart. Who do you think Shabana Mahmood is appealing to with policies that will see anyone with refugee status potentially forced to return to their home country if it becomes safe? People granted asylum, so genuine, bona fide applicants, waiting 20 years before they can apply for permanent settlement. Ukrainians sent home once the conflict or the invasion by Russia has been settled. I don't know whether it would be one way or another. If Putin were to completely occupy Ukraine, would we send them back there? You'd have to hope not. But the line I've seen is that once the conflict with Russia has ended, there'll be no automatic housing or financial support for asylum seekers, which means they'll lose the £9 a week and the roof over their head that they currently get. Those are the key areas. And the key question, I'd like to get into the question about whether or not you, as somebody from an ethnic minority who is second, third generation or first generation, but here completely regularly, under completely normal and unextraordinary circumstances, whether you think these policies will make people less suspicious of you, less negative to you, but that's quite niche. I'm going to open this question this morning with one that absolutely everybody can answer. Okay, Shabana Mahmood is going to make life measurably harder for genuine refugees. Genuine refugees. Why?